Okay, so this is going to be a breakdown of really just the After Effects file of my Silksong fake DLC trailer that I made, where I took like my 5 images. I sort of, in composition and in pacing and in level of movement in terms of the camera, in terms of the colors. And again, as I said, in terms of the composition, I wanted to match the Team Cherry's official Sea of Sorrow DLC trailer, but I wanted to make a What If Wrath of the Lich King, the expansion from World of Warcraft, was translated into Silksong. And I'll probably keep this pretty brief. I actually mostly want to go into the little faux gameplay snippet right here. But first, let's just look at the other images, because I kind of want to have like a, I guess not necessarily a shot reverse shot, but you've got the Lich King as just a shadow with a sort of Bolvar's orange tinted eyes. And then at the end, of course, the trailer lines up with Arthas's metallic, right, bug skull. And then you have the eyes will appear, and I had it in time with, because I've got my music files right here, because I start with the slow, invincible music piece from World of Warcraft, and then it goes into the Welcome to Farloom with like the bells ringing musical piece from Silksong. And I wanted to have like each eyeball, right, kind of come in, fade in, and then fade out in time with the music. And other than that, again, to keep it mostly brief, I added some particle effects and stuff that move just to look like the Abyss, right? Like he's part of the Abyss from Silksong, because I didn't want this to be so focused on World of Warcraft that I'm ignoring the world of Silksong. Again, it's kind of like a marriage between both, but I also want to do this for fun, so I was mostly focused on the language of the Sea of Sorrow trailer, and I noticed most of the compositions in Sea of Sorrow, it's really Silksong in general, but a ton of blacks, right? A ton of harsh blacks in the middle, and you just have the edges illuminated here, right? And specifically, there's one shot of, I'm not really sure what it is. It's something like a mountain. It's like a giant circular object on a mountain, and so I wanted to mimic that composition here, so this is the best part. And you'll notice, we don't even have to necessarily go into the file, but I will, just so that it loads. But you'll notice mostly I have the camera slowly zooming in. I've got some particle effects that I created, like if I go to this comp here, right, just for some snow, and I have a few layers of that. So I've got like background particles back here, and then the foreground particles. And mostly we just want a bit of a slow zoom, and then I've got all of my different layers at different distances, just like in my Bloodborne trailer, so that whenever the camera moves in, things move at different distances. And it's a very subtle thing, but it makes it feel 3D. Like if we turned off all of the 3D layers, but still had the camera, this camera right here, be 3D, and if we moved it in and out, the image would be much more flat, because in reality, like this mountain, is here or something like that, and that's a little bit closer than this little thing that's holding Frostmourne, and then Frostmourne's a bit further away back here. And all that does, again, is as we track the camera in and out, it makes things move at different speeds. And it's subtle, but you want things to be subtle. If the movement was too fast, or if the wind was blowing too fast, or if these objects were really far away or something where there was almost no movement, really you want to avoid the extremes, because again, you just want a subtle enough effect that it feels a bit dramatic, but you don't want it to be too fast, because that would be distracting, and obviously too slow, it would look static. So same thing as if I kind of scrub through here, you'll notice the sky back here kind of fades, different parts fade in and out. And again, that could just be like, clouds or frost or something like that in the background moving. And it's the same for, where is it? For the, well, okay, once again, before I get into that, actually, you'll notice in the transitions, like especially this transition right here, I have a solid shape. I'll turn that off, and the transition's already a little bit weirder. Well, for a different reason, because I actually had to duplicate this layer to extend it a little bit longer. But anyway, you have a fade in cube that just, it fades, it makes the transition a little bit easier. So you fade from black, and then also I have an effect, a lens effect. Let's see if I can pull that up. A Gaussian blur effect. So in the beginning, Arthas's head, or his bust, I guess, is actually blurred, and then having the black part fade away and to have the opacity going basically from 100 to 0, plus the slight Gaussian blur disappear, it helps pull everything into effect. It's really subtle, but again, if it just jumped from this frame right into this frame and you saw everything right away, it's a lot less dramatic. And again, it's subtle transition changes, but those soft transitions really make the trailer. You know, I think what it is, because again, you don't want a lot to it. It's just a teaser for a video game DLC. So you just want to show a few snippets and you want things to be soft and subtle, I think. Again, this one isn't real, but if it was. And then same thing, the camera's slowly moving in. So you've got like the background is going to be at a different distance relative to where Arthas is at in the foreground. And here you've got a few nice details, like I made 2 different layers for Bolvar's like sun ray he's got going on for his eyes. Or not really, it's not a sun ray. It's a light ray right from the infection from Hollow Knight 1 kind of stirring within him to cause that orange effect from the Lich King game. You know, you want to find like lore reasons that cross over between both games. Like instead of being strung up with iron chains, he's strung up in silk, right? But so to make this effect, I literally just had, I don't know if I'll be able to find, I have all the different names, but yeah, Anime I Light 2, IL1, or just L. They're 2 different effects, and basically I just have their opacities changing one after another, keyframed here. Yes, I've got the 2 different keyframes, and all this really does is it creates this illusion that the rays are sort of shimmering due to the abyss in his eyes, but really it's just 2 different layers that I am phasing in and out their opacities at, you know, offsetting from each other. And then one holdover I had from the Bloodborne trailer that I worked on is I had a very subtle smoke effect coming out of Ludwig's mouth. And so for here, I wanted these tendrils to slowly look like they're moving, right? Like they're sort of churning through like a witch's pot or something, because I wanted something lighting these like big pillars that are, I always think of these when I think of the Ice Crown Citadel dungeon. And same thing, this is a pretty good example of, you've got like this ice piece in the foreground here. Let me see if I can just select it, right? So it's really close. Okay, there we go. Now it's moving. So again, if you picture the camera coming forward, this is going to be moving at you. So having it closer to our digital camera basically just means that it's going to move at a different rate, at a different speed than everything in the midground and the background. So when you go to that final, you know, I think I'm messing up what the previews are going to look like from messing with all the files, but whenever you get like that final preview of the camera moving, you've got these little like these midground towers and these background towers moving at different speeds for, again, subtle nice effect. And I'm kind of repeating myself, so finally we're going to get to the gameplay. And this whole project started out with just this idea, is I just wanted to make a little like faux gameplay screenshot of Ice Crown Citadel, because I enjoy the rendering style of Silksong so much. It's very simplistic, it's a bit painterly, but it's really a powerful form of rendering for an artist, because you get to just start with a value of black of 0, and then you get to paint on top of it. And especially doing assets, it's very fun because you just, right, I just drew a barrel and then filled it all in with black, and then I just take a simple round brush, and then I just get to add all these little streaks and build up a bit of light, and then rinse and repeat for everything, even for this little chandelier. You just get to start with the shape first, or with these chains. And of course, I really tried to, you know, do my best to make the rendering look interesting, but it's really easy to have a lot of fun with it, because you just get to start with black after you've established your, you know, your base sketch and your shape, and you just get to add in pops of color. You don't really have to think about a lot of minute detail, because your brain will fill in the gaps as long as you create nice subtle light transitions. So again, for me in here, you'll notice that there are a ton of layers, like a ton of different layers, and that's because in the game, this tower is actually the key right here. So if we look right here, we kind of scroll through, hopefully if we scroll through, you'll see, okay, I'm pointing at the screen with my actual finger. I'm gonna try and use this marker. So if you look at here, these pillars are gonna move at different speeds. So as Hornet's coming across here, how do I go back? There we go. It's like each one is gonna be separating. Let's see if we can get it to run at a different speed. They kind of start to pull apart anything, and it's very subtle, but in the game they do this, and that's because all of these different objects are at different distances, and that just creates this great, between that and the blur effect, like the different strength of blur depending on the distance of the object in the background. That plus its parallax, it was what the effect is called, by the way. I keep on talking about parallaxing without calling it parallax. Without the rate of the object scrolling based on its distance, it just adds so much depth. And again, it's a subtle thing. It's a thing that I don't think you would really think about if you didn't know about it. But yeah, so I've got my all black foreground objects here, and they are the closest thing to our camera here. And then the midground has Hornet with the barrels, with this giant vat of goo, with I want this to look like a platform. This is something that the player should think they're interacting with. Again, I'm not a game designer. I didn't design this game, but if we're thinking about it like it's a real game, you want this to be obviously interactable. And this stuff in the background is going to have, again, different strengths of it being blurred, and they're going to move at different speeds. And again, I think it's most well seen here. Although I think After Effects is not loading fast enough to really see that effect. So I'd urge you to, hey, go watch the trailer. It's like 40 seconds basically. And I really liked making all the different assets. Like I said, the big vat of acid always stuck out to me whenever I was running through the dungeon as a kid. And of course the floor texture, if you noticed in the Ice Crown Citadel, is a bunch of skulls of, I don't know, the Scourge or Arthas's enemies or something. So I just sketched like 8 or 9 different bug skulls by looking at the hunter journal entries, and then I just made a smattering of different values. And so I think if I go through my layers, oh, there we go. Okay, it was just delayed. So yeah, you got the foreground skulls gone, then you've got the midground, then you've got the background. Again, if you'll notice over here, all of these are at slightly different distance, right? It's these 3 here, and they're all marching closer to you. And then again, you extrapolate that with these giant claw things of acid or goo in here. And then I've got two of the chandeliers actually lit. You can barely see the other one right here, because in the game they've got like these giant bright beams of blue, but I didn't want the ones that the character would stand on to have those, so they're farther away. They've got their beams. And then there's a few other objects that were blurred so much, like there's these giant metal structures in the Ice Crown Citadel, that if I removed that, it would just be blank blue space. Or not blank, I made a sky background and stuff that I knew would barely be seen. Here you go, there's a big structure right here that's going to move. It's going to be a lot closer to the foreground than some of these, not rings are. I wanted to mimic the Weaver areas where you get your powers, because there's like these ruins with this specific type of structure behind the vats, and I thought it worked really well to compositionally. It designed very similarly to the little Weaver areas. And then finally, I played around with the colors a bit. If we go, there I got my full composition. Also, having my vignette, if I remove my vignette, you'll see I've got these are at different distances as well in terms of blurring them. Right when I made the mock-up, I just had to, in my mind, picture these at different distances and then blur them accordingly and then place them accordingly once I wanted to animate this. But I tried in Ice Crown Citadel, there's some of these barrels, they've got greens, and then they've got these oranges inside, liquid inside them. So I did the same thing with like the tubes and the vats. So this one, you can see, is a lot less blurred than this one, but there's like these little like spiked braces holding together these tubes. And yeah, other than that, you've got the pure black foreground elements, which again is really nice because it's simple to design and to paint, but it's also very effective at evoking mood whenever you do have that, if it'll load, that vignette over everything, because it makes things a lot more intimate and a lot creepier, and you don't really quite know where you're going. And of course I added some webbing and stuff like that, because again, I'm trying to picture this with Silksong. This is my favorite asset by far as well. Man, After Effects is really not letting me pan. Honestly, with the slight blur, which I need to talk about, but I put a lot of time and effort into it. I like how it designs. I like the little spout that it has. I like the metallic texture that I created. Again, I was looking at assets from Silksong to make this, but it's really fun because you just get to paint in these these mid greens and these bright greens, and then take an eraser and smudge away to get back to that black, and you don't have to worry too much about. You don't really have to worry too much. You just get to have fun with it. Honestly, it's the best way to put it. It's mindless in the best way possible, because this is my favorite thing was getting to paint away and do stuff. And I wish I could do that all day, honestly. And I did the same thing with the floors. You'll notice that this bug skull that I had for the floor was actually based off of Sindragosa the dragon, Arthas's dragon, and then I wanted to combine it with like what if it was like a bug skull, so you can see the double sets of eyes and things like that. And then this is based off of, I can't recall it in the moment, but this is based off of a shape you'll see on one of the assets if you go to the Ice Crown Citadel. And I've got some like silvery plants, since those are always things that you can walk by and cut as Hornet. And of course, same thing, I've got some atmospheric particles, because in the game, right, you've got the world, you want to have some signs of life and stuff like that. And well, you really can't tell that they're moving. This thing is not rendering the next frame very well. But yeah, they move around. And last but not least, so in the game, I noticed that Hornet has this little like light. I think it's the same thing in Dark Souls. Your character has a slight glow around them that illuminates the direct surrounding area. And it's not just directly, or at least to get the effect I thought that I was looking at from the screenshots of the game. It's not just a screen layer that brightens everything. I think there's a little bit of color burning or something going on. So I have two layers. There we go. Follow 1, follow 2. So there we go. This I think is the screen layer. And then this is a color burn layer, because you'll notice the screen lightens the area, but it doesn't quite look right. Again, I feel like that the light also distorts the color a little bit. It blows it out a little bit. So all I did, if I open the layers here, okay, actually no. So what I originally planned to do, I forgot I even did this. What I originally planned to do was have their position, right, their positional coordinates be the same as the Hornet run cycle, so that as she's running, these two small gradients here are following her and illuminating everything around her. But then I realized I didn't even need to do that. As long as I set them in the middle of the screen, everything here you'll see is a 3D object. So it's, okay, I keep on pointing to the screen with my actual finger. So it's like these 3D objects exist in space, and whenever the camera moves one way, they'll move with it. But if it's a 2D object, and you can turn the objects on and off with this little toggle right here. But if these are actually, let me just see if I can show it to you. But basically, if there were 3D objects, I would have to map them out, and I would have to follow and track Hornet's run cycle perfectly. But if they're 2D objects, they just stay at the center of the screen, because I've got a 3D camera in space that lets me move what I'm looking at, right? If I scrub here, if I go in and out, but the 2D objects basically treat this as a flat plane, as a screen. So it's almost like sticking a circular gradient on the middle of the camera lens. So as long as I put it into position, and I know that I want Hornet to be at the front of my screen, because this would be a gameplay, so you want the character to stay, for the most part, at the front of the screen. If I just left them as 2D objects, they would just track exactly where she's running anyway, so I wouldn't have to do anything. So that's exactly what I did. I actually forgot that I did that. And then last but not least, this Hornet run cycle, this is not going to load fast enough for me to show you this, but I made this, so I literally just rotoscoped Hornet running. And so I just played the game. I recorded myself in OBS for a few seconds of Hornet running, and what I did, I just screenshotted frame by frame what I assumed to be individual drawing of her running, and then I just rotoscoped. And so rotoscoped is you literally just trace over every single part of her, and I filled in with color. I think there's like 7 frames, I want to say 6 or 7 frames, and then I tried to guess what FPS her character model is running at, and then I rendered it as a GIF. So you'll see it's a GIF down here, and then I tried to slide her along the floor at a speed that I thought was that matched like what the real gameplay looked like. All this would have been so much easier if there was just like a transparent, I want to say PNG or GIF of Hornet's walk cycle, so then I could have just put it in here and done the same thing. But I couldn't find something online. So yeah, instead I just rotoscoped it. So I just drew over, guessed on, I think I left like 2 or 3 frames in between each new drawing that you see to make up her run cycle. And man, this is, my computer's really struggling. But all I want to show you is what I did is for her position, yeah, I just dragged her from point A to point B, and then I just repeated it over and over using like linear something, I forgot. I had to Google it right before I did it. But yeah, I just dragged a repeating GIF of a run, and then that mixed with the light following her, mixed with the vignette I added around the camera, mixed with the blurred, depth of field for each object, plus all the objects put in their 3D space. That created this 1.5 seconds of fake gameplay that I wanted to create. Because again, I thought it would be like the cool I thought it'd be the cool cherry on top of the trailer. But originally, this was I just wanted to paint these assets for fun. But yeah, originally I just want to make this fun screenshot, and then I decided to add little animation to it. And then when the Sea of Sorrow trailer came out, I was like, I think I can push this, and I can make a few illustrations, right? Because it's pretty simple. As I said earlier, it's not too time intensive to render something like this. And I already had a few ideas in mind for Ice Crown Citadel, so I painted these and stuck them in. And then it would be like, I noticed in some of Team Cherry's trailers, right, they'll have your more dramatic illustration part of the trailer that are again subtly animated, and then you have it'll like cut with the music to a little bit of gameplay of like Hornet running through a field with some particles or bugs flying in front of her. And so that's exactly what I wanted to do. And yeah, if you haven't seen it, please go ahead and watch it. And I thank you so much for watching, as always. Thank you to my patrons. So yeah, if you got all the way to the end, I hope you appreciated this After Effects dive. And until next time, have a great rest of your day. Bye.